In this video, we're going to be talking about mental maps. So mental map questions typically are the kinds that ask you to draw a map based on a certain fieldwork question. They could ask you to compare two different mental maps, identify the similarities, identify the differences. They can also ask you to interpret mental maps. So first of all, what is a mental map? A mental map is literally a map of what you think is around you, of a certain location, maybe your neighborhood, or even countries in the world. Your mental map and another person's mental map is going to be very different, because what you see and take notice of in that particular location will be different from your friends, based on your experiences, based on your interest areas. So that is why when we look at mental maps that people draw, we often gather insight as to what this person likes, what this person takes notice of, or certain biases that the person has. So that is why it's worth exploring mental maps that people have drawn. So for example, the map you see here is a mental map of the world from an American perspective. So the way an American thinks would already be very different from the way an Asian person thinks. So first of all, you need to know where this American person is located, which is here. The bulk of it would be in America here, and then you see the 51st state here. Now there's a reason for it. The 51st state of America doesn't exist here. This is more of UK, United Kingdom. But why do the Americans call this the 51st state? So based on your inference then, do they mean that actually part of UK they think belongs to them? That's why they call it the 51st state. So this is one aspect as to why mental maps give you insight into a person's perspective. Let's look at the rest. You see ice on top here, you see ice below here. So the inability to identify this country tells you that to the Americans, maybe they don't really care much about it, they don't know what's happening there. So this place, ice here, actually is Greenland. And then you see other things that they take notice of. For example, South America here. They know it for cocaine, a drug. They know it for coffee. Then you look at other areas. Empty area. This is where we call Africa. But to the Americans, they think that it's just an empty plot of land, which is not true in real life. So they don't really know what's happening there. Look up here at Europe. There's wine, there's perfume, there's spaghetti. So that tells you what are the things that get imported into America, such that Americans actually know where these products come from. So there are wines, European wines that are shipped into America. There's perfume that probably the Americans buy. There are types of food that the Americans eat that come from Europe. Russia, one big mess here. They know is one big mess. You see here, this is the Middle East and they associate it with oil. This area produces a lot of oil. They also associate it with war, a lot of conflict there. Then you come to China here. This tells you that they perceive of China as a place that manufactures a lot of goods. What kind of goods? You get your shoes, you get your computer products. We probably even would go so far to say that maybe this part here is China and this part here is India. We don't really know. We do know that Asia actually covers a very big landmass here, but somehow the Americans have left out all these Southeast Asian countries. And they even said this, don't go here. So we're not really sure what country the American thinks they shouldn't go. And then we come to this part here, radioactive area. Probably Japan, because of the tsunami that took place there that led to a nuclear meltdown. And finally, you see Australia here. It just says it's a big island. They don't really know what there is. They associate it with Hawaii. So Hawaii is one of the islands here, somewhere here, outside of the photo, that actually belongs to America. So this seems like a very big island compared to Hawaii. So Americans not knowing what Australia looks like, they may associate it with things that they already know in their own country. So it looks like this, it probably looks like that. So looking at this mental map, we go on to the second mental map. Again, created from an American's perspective. And immediately you can see a lot of differences. This one, there is very little information. This one, there's actually a lot more information there. So if two Americans actually gave you these two versions of a mental map, you might be able to say that this second American is actually more informed or appears to be more informed about the world compared to the first one. But let's see whether it's true or not. We make some comparisons here. Greenland. This was actually named compared to previously just ice. So actually the second American seems to be a bit more aware about the world and countries in the world. England here is known for cars. In the previous one, you see, is the 51st state. Russia, this is about vodka. China, again, you see the same similarity, pretty much making goods. India, however, you see tikka, so tikka masala chicken. So that tells you that Americans, maybe they're very interested in Indian food. Sri Lanka, you see tea here. This one, honeymooners area for the Americans. So a lot of them like to go to Southeast Asia for honeymoons. And you see all these insects here, which indicates to you that there are a lot of mosquitoes. Again, similarity you see here, you see coffee, but this time the person associated Brazil with football, the World Cup. Mexico, you see tacos here. US, you see a lot of things because the person obviously knows a lot about the US. You get hot dogs, you get rockets, you get films, you get basketball, NBA. And then you get Canada here, which is known for maple leaves. Then moving on here, you get Spain, very good for football. You get Africa here. So instead of saying that this is an empty plot of land, you see this thing, diamonds. Very good for minerals. This part here, you see oil again, so the same thing that's seen. Other things you might see here, penguin homeland. So now they're able to identify a certain animal associated with the place as well. In Australia, this is a kangaroo. So you see a lot more associations with food, with animals, with things produced in this second mental map compared to the first mental map. It probably also tells you that this person, the second person, the American, is aware of a lot of products around the world. Or perhaps this second American is living in a time whereby US has become a lot more globalized, gets in a lot more imports around the world. Or this American could be living in a time whereby there's a lot of information on the web to let them know different parts of the world what they produce, compared to the first one. The first one seems to be a bit slightly more ancient, maybe 10-15 years ago when the tsunami happened, but not really aware about situations in the world and what people produce in different places.